This is so much fun creating this. Hi, Katie. Hi, Matthew.
Dean's back. Awesome.
All right.
I'm going to join you just now with video. I'm just finishing up some doubles. Tanya, you would know what that's it.
Oh, yes. Matt, I just made you co-host. It went through.
I also have a few friends that I invited. I hope they do join us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Katie. All right.
Okay, I'll be back 1 second.
Okay, good. Okay. Enjoy your doubles to me. So, Matt, you would absolutely love doubles, I think. It's like this really, okay, Sean is good at explaining food. Sean will make your mouth like water. You have your water?
It's this a fried dough called a bara, and they put turmeric in it, but then they stew down these chickpeas with, sometimes they put curry in it and different spices, and then it's till it's soft, and they'll take the two bara with the chickpeas in it, and then they'll put sauces in it like a tamarind, it's like spicy and sour, or garlic sauce and shadow benny, and it's real simple, but when it's done right, oh man, yeah, it's nice.
You fry them, or you fry them?
Vegetarians.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Manolo.
Morning.
We can't see you.
You'll see me in a moment.
Okay.
Getting my makeup on.
Okay. Where are our guys?
I'm sure they'll be on.
Okay.
How you guys doing this morning?
Good, good. Happy, chirping.
Good.
Nice.
I was listening to some comedy before coming on.
All right.
How are you doing this morning?
Good. I had a little mini workout.
Nice. I did too. Nice.
Hoping to ride some bike this afternoon.
I didn't hear you about this afternoon.
Hoping to get a bike ride in.
Oh, yes. That would be great.
Yeah.
I did see you. Where did you guys go? Okay. I did see you. I was looking for photos of you guys, and I saw that you ran marathons, and that was so cool. Let me make Laquan. Hi, Laquan. Let me make you a
Good morning.
co-host.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. Hi, Colleen. Nice to have you.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody.
All right, so it's 10 o'clock, guys. Sean is going to be leading us in this one. He's going to do our intro. Let me make sure, I think we have to shift this about a little bit.
All right. And I have notes to read. It's a lot, and I don't want to mess it up. Right. So I'm Sean. It's my wife, Tonya here, of course. We're members of the Robinson Lloyd Resiliency Group. We do business also as Lloyd Lloyd. We have an evidence-based life skills and enrichment program, and we'll be known globally for increasing students' resilience and academic performance one district school at a time, and we have the evidence to prove such over the last 2 years. All right. We're going to begin with an icebreaker. And the question is, where would you buy your dream home? Like, where would you buy it? I have a couple ideas myself.
We want to give Matthew the credit for that idea, for that icebreaker. Thanks, Matt. Yep. All right, so I'm going to put it in the chat because I've been thinking about it and I know where I want to live. And it should be no surprise to anybody. There's mine. Ha! Trinidad, that's right.
Same, Tanya, same.
Same. right? So we have a song, my nipple string buried there. So, so Trinidad, else wants to say or tap in, where would you live? We have literally 1 more minute for our icebreaker.
For me, it's San Diego. I just, the weather is so consistent out there. Beach, you can go skiing, and if you really go north, a couple hours. So there's a lot to do out there.
All right, right. San Diego sounds beautiful. You like San Diego? Sean, where would you?
I have too many. Oh man, I have Trinidad, Paris, Cape Town, and Singapore.
I picked so I think I'm seeing a trend of everyone picking like home, right? So I picked Guyana, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I picked Guyana. So my wife and I are both from there, so it's a bunch of family. It's just a big family reunion. So, and it's beautiful there. And then I'd have to pick either Florida or Italy was nice.
Italy is nice.
Italy was pretty nice. So it'll be Guyana, it'll be Florida, and then it'll probably be Italy. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we have more people joining us. We didn't hear from Satiir. Satiir, where would you go?
First, I would have to find out where I'm rooted from in Africa, and I would want to visit there.
Nice.
Yeah, I would want to figure out where my ancestors are in Africa, and then essentially, I would go to Cali. When I went to Cali, it's like Florida, but it's not as humid.
Yeah,
I would definitely go to Cali because it's like that dry heat. It's not as humid, and the people. It's good vibes out there.
And see, because Cassandra said, that's very beautiful, Satiir. That's very beautiful. My dad just joined us from St. Lucia. Okay, so we have Colleen said Jamaica or Georgia. And Cassandra said back to Jamaica. Yep. I have to visit Jamaica. Like, I'm in love with Jamaican music. All right. And Trinidadian music as well, old-time soca, just to have that clear. Hi, Daddy, welcome. My dad from St. Lucia, guys. Okay, so it's 10:05 and we're ready to hop in. Sean will be introducing our panelists for today.
All right. First, we have Matthew Del Priori. Matthew began his career in 2005 after graduating from Baruch College. He has built his practice with the notion that he is there to help clients create a financial game plan for the road ahead, helping people make smart decisions about their money based on what is most important to them. He currently manages $250 million of assets, a team of 7 advisors, and surrounds himself with other allied professionals to ensure his clients get the best advice and service. Matthew lives in Middletown, New Jersey with his wife, Nicole, and daughter, Sienna. And now, next will be Manolo Tehelo, pardon me. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree from Purdue University, an MBA with a concentration in finance from the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University. 33 years on Wall Street in institutional equities at Morgan Stanley, Lehman Brothers, JP Morgan, FTN Equity, Capital Markets, and Think Equity. 5 years at AXA Advisors, 2.5 years at Fortis Lux Financial. So they both work at are affiliated with Fortis Lux. And now for Jonestown Capital Partners, Laquan Satiir. Jonestown Capital is a full-service real estate development company with 3 major functionalities integrated into its business model. It consists of an investment fund, asset and property management company, and a full-service construction company. And we're joined by Laquan and Satiir. They are the chief executive officer and head of the fund, and Satiir is the chief investment officer.
Dwight's on the call as well. He was able to make the call this morning.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Okay.
We have Dwight.
We have Dwight right here. All right. Let's see, where's Dwight? Dwight.
Actually,
Dwight just had a baby girl the other day. We didn't know if he was gonna be able to make it.
Oh, congratulations, Dwight.
Well, actually,
That's Dwight. That's awesome.
Laquan, could you give a quick bio of Dwight, please?
Yeah, sure. So Dwight is our chief operating officer. So he's head of property and asset management. So just a quick insight. So myself and Dwight have known each other since the 3rd grade.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And Satiir and myself have known each other since middle school. And all combination.
Wow.
And Dwight and Satiir have known each other since elementary school. So we're all, you know, kind of raised in the same town.
Yes.
We all went to college in different places and then came back. And, you know, after our careers, we started to, you know, develop this real estate development company together. So,
Awesome.
long-standing
Awesome.
history. Yeah.
Glad to have you guys. Thank you so much. So we're going to turn it over to Matt. Matt has his presentation on home ownership ready for us.
Awesome, great, and thank you so much for the introductions, and thank you everyone for joining us today. 2 weeks ago, I thought we had a pretty good presentation, and the best part about the presentation was really the engagement. We have a very intimate group here today, so we definitely want to encourage questions and you know, feedback as we go through this. So if you have questions, type them in the chat box. You know, feel free to ask questions and stop us. We have an hour today, and I want to make sure our partners and our friends at Jonestown Capital have enough time to go through their presentation. So we're going to do 30 minutes going through, you know, buying a home, right? More buying a home for yourself as it relates to a primary residence. And then Laquan and his team are going to go through real estate investments and a little bit about how you think about real estate as creating wealth for yourself and your family. So I'm going to get right into it. I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to try to go relatively quickly and may jump over some slides, but I'll make sure we cover this topic. So, you know, we're going to talk about the advantages of buying and renting, right? Obviously, the American dream is to own a home. But again, we need to assess a lot of things before we go through that. And so here's some things that you might hear about the real estate market. Market always goes up. Well, I guess you can argue, especially in these times, a lot of commercial real estate may not be going up, maybe going down, which might be an opportunity. Paying rent is like throwing money away. Yeah, maybe. We'll talk more about the flexibility of renting. Tax benefits pay for the cost of a home. Not at all. Yes, taxes, you get a break for owning a home, and real estate does come with a very attractive tax advantage, but it's not going to pay for the cost of the house, right? Buy as much as you can afford, absolutely, right? We talked last time about making sure you have an emergency fund and cash flow. We're going to talk about that today. Being a landlord is easy money. I'm sure the gentleman at Jonestown would not agree with that, right? It's work, it takes a lot of effort, and so they're going to talk about that today. Bank owns my house? Well, maybe. I mean, if you have a mortgage, I guess technically part of it is owed to them. House is an investment. I would say my personal opinion is the house that you live in is really not much of an investment. You're going to live there anyway. The equity that's in your home earns a 0% rate. So I think more investments would be more in what the guys at Jonestown are doing or other investments, which we're going to talk about later. Lower mortgage rates better? Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Owning, to me, provides more security. You know, you have something to fall back on. There's equity if you need to tap into it. And I think we're going to talk about living there for many years. I mean, I think it's important if you're going to buy something, not for flipping purposes, but to live, that you want to understand how long you're going to live there for. So questions, just want to pause there because I went through a lot there. And I'll pull up that screen if anyone has any comments. So, you know, the next slide really, you know, these are some of the things you need to think about when you're buying a home, right? Because it's not just about, you know, the mortgage payment or, you know, how much do I need to put down, but do I like the place or area I'm going to, right? Are schools important? How likely am I going to live there, right? Those are things that are non-financial, but very important, right? Your family values, what neighborhoods do you want to be in, things of that nature. Do I have funds set aside for emergencies. So the last thing you want to do is put all your money down into a home, and then you have no emergency fund. You're out of work, someone gets ill, sick or injured, now you can't work. How are you going to pay your mortgage? 48% of foreclosures are due to a long-term disability, right? So if I'm unable to work and again, pay the bills, how can I afford my mortgage? So disability insurance is something that's very important where, hey, there's an extra cost that I may have not had before renting, right? How much do I have for a down payment? Ideally, and we're going to talk about it, 20% would be ideal, but there are programs out there that allow you to put 3 to 5% down, right? And what do you have to be aware of if you only put that amount down, right? And other things like landscaping, right? When you own a place, everything's on you, right? So just think about that as you enter your home purchase. It's not just the down payment and the mortgage, but now I have property taxes. Do I need to do work? What are the moving costs? All these other things that you have to think about, okay? And then look, there are advantages to renting, right? Flexibility. I have a lot of clients when they retire, like, we're going to move to Florida. We're going to move. Okay, well, why don't you rent first? See if you like it. Because what if you don't like the area, the people, whatever it may be? At least you have flexibility now to make that move. But over time, when buying, you're building equity, right? You have tax advantages. It's yours. You can do what you want. No one tells you what you can or can't have, whether it's pets or something like that. All right. So just so that everyone knows, I am going fast. We're recording this session, right? So we're going to be able to replay this and send this out. So I know there's a lot of things on the slide, but would love to get some feedback before I go on.
Anything you thought of?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Good.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So
I like the reading, actually.
Yeah.
yeah, so what are some of the things you need to sort of be aware of, right? And this can be in any type of real estate venture. What is your net worth? What is your credit score? What is your cash flow, right? Net worth in terms of, okay, where are you going to access your down payment funds? Do you have enough in cash and after-tax vehicles? If not, do I need to go into my retirement plan, my 401k? Can I pull money out of an IRA or Roth? You can. There's certain things to be aware of, however, for example, still paying taxes, right? So if you pull 10 grand out of your IRA, you may only see a benefit of about 8 because you have to pay taxes. So something to keep in mind. Where are you going to access that fund? And then just from before, making sure you're keeping some cash on hand after. What's your credit score? Because that's going to determine your mortgage rate, right? The better the credit score, the more competitive the rate. And then what is your cash flow after, right? So we're going to talk something a little bit later about debt to income ratios. Okay. So here's an example of when you have a better credit score, right? Interest rates lower, someone with a score of 740 versus 660. May not seem like a lot, but look over time, this individual here pays almost 30 grand more just because of his or her credit score, right? So, these are things to think about. Buying a home doesn't have to, don't rush into it. It may take 3 to 5. It took me probably, it took me 6 years of running my business to be able to just get the funds for the down payment. And, so just make it a goal, right? I think we talked about last time, a SMART goal. You want to buy a $500,000 house in 3 years, 20% down payment. Okay. I need 100 grand in 3 years. Can I do that? Right. So it's specific, it's measurable. Can I put together 33 grand for the next 3 years? Right. So those are things to think about as it relates to your cash flow. And one thing that someone told me, an uncle of mine said, look, let's say you're renting and it's $1,000 a month. Just use simple examples. And then you're going to go buy a place and it's going to cost you $2,000 a month. Well, start saving that extra $1,000 a month right now, because eventually you're going to be, have to get used to that $2,000 a month, payment. May as well start saving the down payment, right? In the meantime. So, that's a way to think about it. And the other thing too is, think about what other costs may come in, right? If you're going to pay for property taxes, do the research. Are there HOA fees, right? Understand what those fees are going to be and how that plays into your monthly need from a cash flow perspective. So I think we talked a little bit about that. I want to go through this. Net worth we spoke about, right? So this is something you should just do an exercise. What's your, retirement? What's your checking, savings, right? This is a net worth statement. Put it down on paper. Get organized, just like we said a couple weeks ago. Just see where you are first, then we can start to plan, right? So if you don't put down, yes.
I heard you mentioned an emergency cash fund for the home. Like what percentage of the mortgage, I guess, should you set aside for something like that?
So to me, you should anywhere from 3 to 12 months of your expenses should be on hand for an emergency. 3, if you have 2 in the household, right? Maybe my wife's working, so if I'm out of work, I still have some cash flow coming in. If I'm a single 8-wage earner, I probably want 6 to 9 months, right? If I'm a business owner, maybe I want more because, my business is tied to my own personal.
Mm-hmm.
A great question.
Thank you.
And, part of the other question, where we'll go to it soon, I'm just going to skip ahead for a second. This to me is a good rule of thumb, 38%. It's called the debt to income ratio. Generally speaking, I have $5,000 of what comes in on a monthly basis. Okay. If I want to stay around 36%, I don't want to go above that. So what are my housing expenses, right? My mortgage, my property taxes, my HOAs, what's my car payment? What's my credit card? Typically speaking, you want to go no more than 36%. Because you need cash for other things, for food, for clothing, for your family needs, your fun, your savings, your taxes. So 36% is really something to kind of stress. Try not to go over that, because then you put yourself in that compromised position of, if you're out of income or out of work, you don't want to foreclose. So that 36% is probably a good rule of thumb. Okay, and then that goes back into the down payment, right? Getting to a down payment for a $500,000 house, 20%, $100,000, that's nothing to sneeze at. So how long will that take? It maybe takes 5 years, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 10. You have to know how long it's going to take. Now, you don't have to necessarily put 20% down. There are first-time home buyer programs that offer as little from 5%. If you're a veteran, sometimes as low as 3% on VA loans. So there are programs out there, but don't forget, 36%. So if I'm borrowing more, I'm also going to be paying more on my mortgage, right? So just understand, if I don't put as much down, I'm going to pay more, which is okay. Just understand, what it looks like on the other end. Okay. And then some places like co-ops or condos. I mean, there were I grew up in Brooklyn and looked around in Queens and Brooklyn for co-ops for my first home, and all of them required 30% down. Right. So I couldn't even get in with 5% or 10. They needed 30%. That was a requirement. Right. So just be aware of things like that if you're looking at co-ops or condos. And if you put less than 20% down, then you're going to pay what's called PMI, private mortgage insurance. So it's basically a little bit of a penalty for, the bank wants to protect themselves. So if you default, there's insurance to pay off the loan. Well, that's going to cost you an extra $44 a month for every 100 borrowed. And these slides are probably 7, 8 years old, so that number might be higher. Okay. And then other things, closing costs, right? Attorneys, right? When you put a down payment, it's not just, okay, down payment, but now I have to pay a commission, right, to the broker potentially. That can be 4 to 5%. Then you have closing costs. So yeah, it's about 4% really of everything you borrow. So that's a good average, because this is my 3rd purchase and it's been about the same. So if I have a $500,000 mortgage, right, 4% of that, right, that's a good chunk of money, right? That's 20 grand that I have to come up with. Now you can borrow that 20 grand and put it into the mortgage, but that's 20 grand that is a cost. Okay. And again, some of these home purchase programs have lower closing costs and things. So again, do the research. Right. Oh wait, there's more, right? Insurance, right? You got to protect your home, right? You got to do there could be homeowners insurance, moving expenses, professional fees, getting an attorney involved, renovations. I remember the house I purchased in Jersey 3 years ago. realized there were no hi-hats anywhere. I had to put like lights in every room. We were just happy to buy the house, and there was an extra cost. Like, there's always something going on in the house, right?
Mhm.
That's the same with even in, investment real estate, right? So keep that in mind. So we talked about cash flow. I don't want to spend too much more time on that because kind of looked through that. But know your income. It may not just be your earned income. It could be rental income. Maybe you're buying a 2-family property and you're going to get rental income from the first floor or the second floor, right? Now, if you do that though, again, what if we're not paying you? What if the tenant decides that he or she doesn't have the funds? I mean, you don't want to rely just on that, right? There's risk there. Okay. And then again, there's different types of homes, right? Single family, co-ops, condos, multifamily. So I think that gets back to where do you desire, right? Condos are attractive in that very less maintenance and have to water, do the lawn, where here at a home, I have other things that condo would want to pay for, right? So good. I think we're doing good on time because we're pretty much towards the end of my presentation. And I admit I went up very quickly. So I'll leave about 3 to 5 minutes, before we hand it off to the gentleman at Jonestown. But these are just some good resources. Bankrate.com. There's mortgage calculators and down payment calculators. Renter's Handbook. There's calculators here. Neighborhood Housing Services of New York. Go out and seek more information about first-time home purchase programs. I mean, just like anything out there, right? Anything in finance, anything you do for yourself to better your family and yourself, you have to do the research, right? So spend the time to do that. Don't just jump into it. And then that's my email address there. So everyone's always feel free to email us, and we'll certainly be following up to help as well. But yeah, so we'd love to open it up to a few questions and answers and then hand it off to the gentleman at Jonestown.
Just real quick, Matt, that buy versus rent calculator, like what type of variables does that take into account? Is it time and what is it?
Buy versus rent calculator, I haven't looked at that in a while, but my assumption is it's going to probably look at how much equity you're building versus if I rented, what would I need to save from the outside, right, to build that same equity is probably my guess.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's typically what it usually shows, just how much money you can save on buying a house versus renting.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. So look, we're going to be here for questions, and I'm really excited. So Laquan, Satiir, and Dwight are friends and clients of ours, and they're doing something really special in Jonestown. And I'm really happy that they were able to join us today. So, part of last 2 weeks ago presentation, a lot of questions were, what about real estate investing, right? Investing in real estate is a means of building wealth. And I'm a big believer in it. There are, to me, 3 things Americans have built their wealth on over time: real estate, businesses, and life insurance, right? And life insurance and a family sort of dynamic as it relates to legacy. So I'm really excited to hear them. And so Laquan, Dwight, Satiir, take it away.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the platform. Thanks for the introduction. Laquan, Dwight, and myself are very grateful. We're going to talk about generally investing, and then also investing in real estate, commercial real estate, what we are doing in urban development. First, I think in investing, you have like 3 keys to success, which is being able to identify opportunity, have specialized knowledge, and be able to take action now. The identifying the opportunity, you will be able to identify opportunity if you have the knowledge of investing, and then taking action now just have a lot to do with being fear adverse, not being fearful of when you do find an opportunity and capitalizing on it. And when my partners and I, we go by, we in the beginning, it's always, when I started out with Laquan, it was always like, you have 3 things, right? You have 3 elements up to what signifies you as an active investor or a passive investor. You either have time, money, knowledge. Passive investors usually don't have the time, but they may have the money and knowledge to identify an opportunity. An active investor usually has the time, money, and may have the capital as well. But if that person has the time and knowledge, he'll be able to procure capital like we are doing now in our business opportunity. And I'm gonna hand over the floor to Laquan to discuss more and deep dive into what we're doing as far as active investors.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Satiir. So just to summarize as I segue into exactly what it is that we're doing, you typically have two different profiles, right? You have a passive investor and an active investor, right? So you as an active investor, the gambit is very wide, right? You have people who fix and flip, right? You have people who buy and hold, right? You have people who wholesale, right? They transfer the equitable interest in contracts, you know, from the seller, right, to a potential buyer, to a developer like myself. So there's a full gambit of, you know, ways you can be an active investor. And then also there's a full gambit of ways you can be a passive investor, right? You can, if you have really good credit, right, you can start to help finance developers. If you have, you know, if you're a professional, a doctor, a lawyer of some sort, and you have a lot of cash reserves, you can put your actual capital into projects, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a presentation, and it's going to be through the lens of an active investor and what you should be looking for in investment opportunities, right? Through our lens. And then our presentation is targeted to attract passive investors. So you'll be able to use this as a baseline for whether it's this opportunity you may be interested in or other opportunities, what your baseline should be when you're talking to active investors to invest passively, right? So myself, Satiir, and Dwight were all Jonestown Capital. So at Jonestown Capital, like they said before, we're a fully integrated urban development investment firm, right? So we have an opportunity zone fund that we're in the process of developing, right? We have a full service construction team, and then we have an asset and property management company, all in-house, that allows us to keep our development costs relatively low, right? So we specialize in conscious urban development, and we're currently assisting a Rust Belt city, which is a two-sherry market. It's about 40 minutes southeast of Pittsburgh, right? And we're working in line with the Redevelopment Authority, the Planning Commission for the county, and then the Community and Economic Development Department to help revitalize the city, right? And what we're going to be talking about is going to be through a very wide lens, and everything can be compressed, right? So we're talking about 60 units over 11 assets. You know, as an active investor, you can speak to the premise in our thought process into one property, right? So right now,
Quan, you gotta, before you proceed, can you answer Matt's question?
Oh, Matt, did you ask a question?
Yeah, he put a question in the chat. He wanted to know the difference between fix and flip and buy and hold.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm sharing my screen, so I can't see that.
It's all good. Yeah, no, this is awesome so far, Laquan, and I figured we pause here to get some questions from you guys are like super knowledgeable, and I love the, you know, having the identity specific knowledge and action, right? I love what Satiir said about action. You have to be fearless, right? It's an old thing, you know, scared money don't make money, right? So,
that's facts.
Sometimes you have to take that risk, right? And that's the thing, right? Taking calculated risks. And then I love the time, money, knowledge thing, right? You have to have, you can't, if you have all three, great, you can go out there, but chances are most of us either we're working, we don't have the time, maybe we have the money, maybe we don't have time to acquire as much knowledge. And that's where someone like a Jonestown or real estate group really comes in and helps.
Right.
Then Laquan, you were saying something to the audience about fix and flip, buy and hold, wholesale. Can you go into the difference between the three and kind of what that means as a real estate investor?
Absolutely. So just as a full disclaimer, we won't be able to go too deep in for time's sake. One, two, if you have a question, I'm sharing my screen, so I can't see them if you put them in the chat. So just try to like kind of, you know.
Cool.
I got you.
So yeah, so I spoke about fix and flip, buy and hold, and then wholesaling, right? These are three different channels in which you can be an active investor, right? So buy and holds are a bit more of a long-term investment strategy. That's when you can purchase a single or multi-family property, right? So you can purchase that in cash via FHA, right? Conventional loans, and you hold on to that asset for cash flow, right? So an example of that is, hey, I buy a single family home in an area that rents out for $2,000 a month. I purchased that property at 200 grand. I'm paying about, you know, $1,200 a month in mortgage. There is generally $800 a month in cash flow in that property that I'm able to walk away with. So it's typically about 500 after expenses.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you know, 3 times, you have an additional $1,500 a month in cash flow that you supplement your income with. The second is fix and flip, right? So that's when you buy a property that's dilapidated and undervalued in a pretty good area, right? So let's say the houses in this neighborhood, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, generally sell for about $350,000, and you identified a property that's on the market at $100,000, and it requires about $75,000 in renovation. You go in and get a contractor to perform that renovation at $75,000. You're all into that property for $175,000, and then you sell that property on the market at that $350,000 premium, right? And then that's a shorter term play. So typically, buy and hold properties, you should be analyzing to keep them for 15 to 30 years. Fix and flip properties, you should be looking to have those properties on average about 13 months, right? So gap funding, short-term financing typically gives you about 13 months from the loan origination to purchase, renovate, and then sell that property. Wholesaling is a lot shorter of a term, so that's typically anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And that's when you put a property under contract. So you've identified, and it starts typically with family and friends, right? So you have a great aunt that's moving into a retirement community, and she's owned her home for 45 years, and she has expressed to you, hey, I need $100,000 to kind of live out for the rest of my days, right? You get rid of that. You know that the value of that home currently is about $150,000. So you give your great aunt a purchase and sell agreement for $100,000. And what happens in real estate is when you put a property under contract, right? That's when you give that purchase and sell agreement to whomever is interested in selling that property.
Called assignment.
Yep. So you have what's called an equitable interest in that property, right? So if you get that property under contract for $100,000, but you know that you can sell that property for $150,000, you now have an equitable interest of $50,000 in that property. So you have a right to assign that contract at $150,000 to a developer or a fix and flipper or a buy and holder, right? And then typically those contracts are on average 45 to 90 days, right, to execute. And then you execute those contracts with a really short term, and you execute those contracts and you have now made $50,000, 27% of that you have to give to Uncle Sam. But you have made a profit on that property without having to hold it for more than 30 to 90 days or do any construction work to it. So those are typically 3 different ways you can be an active investor. And then, you know, you can passively invest in either one of those channels, right?
Yeah, and the wholesaling thing, if you're really good, you're able to get the contract you able to get the property under contract for less, and then you'll leave more meat on the bones for a fix and flip type investor.
Exactly.
You know, essentially.
So the key to those three strategies is the information and experience, right? So the more you know about a particular market and the more experience you have in doing those types of investments, the better deals you'll be able to generate and the more money you'll be able to generate in those active goals. Did anyone else have any other questions? I can't see that.
No, I'm looking at everything seems fine.
Yeah, that's great, Laquan.
That's good.
Yeah.
As an investor or a financial planner, when I typically look at investments from a buy and hold perspective, I kind of use the cap rate, the capitalization rate to kind of guide me as a decision. And then on the fix and flip, that 13 months is so key also from a tax perspective.
For sure.
Go into both of those just very quickly.
Yeah, so a capitalization rate is is the net operating income generally over the asking or purchase price of a property. That generally gives you a capitalization rate, and that rate is what percentage of return you're going to make on your money. So typically in areas that have higher risks, so I'm assuming everyone is from New Jersey or in the New Jersey area for the most part. So if you're in areas like Newark or parts of Baltimore or parts of Philadelphia regionally, your capitalization rate is going to be a bit higher to compensate for the risk, right? And if you're in places like Manhattan or LA or Miami, your capitalization rates are going to be a bit lower because those markets are a bit more secure. So in short, a capitalization rate is essentially your rate of return, and that's the net operating income against the purchased or asking price for a property. And what was the second part that you wanted me to answer, Matt?
The fix and flip, right? The capital gains, right? 13 months is a key date because of taxation, right? So you have, if you capital gains, you sell a property or any other asset and you do it within 12 months, the short-term capital gains rate is your income rate, right? So if I'm 25% tax bracket, I'm paying 25%.
Right.
If I go further than past 12 months, 15 months or later, now it's a long-term capital gains rate, which is at 15% or even less, sometimes 10.
Yeah. So time is key when looking into, those shorter term investment opportunities, because the quicker you can get things done, you reduce your exposure in regards to taxes. So thank you for those questions, Matt. That was really good, and I'm hoping that the information is helpful.
Very.
That's good info.
Yeah.
Did someone else ask a question?
No.
Oh no, we were just chiming in saying, yeah, that's good info.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
and listen, I'm gonna continue to push through the presentation. Feel free to just wave or chime in if you have a question.
Oh, Laquan, 4 of our members are from Trinidad.
Okay, I'm not familiar with Trinidad geographically, so
but they invest
about
They
higher
invest
risks.
too.
What was that?
They invest here as well, so they joined in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was for the question I answered. Okay.
Yes, no.
They in the right place then.
Yes.
So what it is that we're currently doing is we have target returns of about or just in excess of about 12% per annum, and we pay out quarterly dividends to our investors. So the company, we've currently procured about 11 assets, and that's the equivalent of about 60 units so far. And, we've strategically chosen these assets to work in conjunction with the Redevelopment Authority's Path of Progress and key areas of interest. So the core urban fabric identified by the Planning Commission so that we're in line and put ourselves in the best opportunity for appreciation. So I'll just put a pin in that area. So as an investor, especially a buy and hold investor, there are three things that you measure, right? So this is my litmus test when I'm evaluating a passive investment opportunity, right? Or not a buy and hold investment opportunity, right? So I look for cash flow, right? I look for purchasing the property with equity, right? And then the third thing is I look for appreciation, right? So there are market indicators that I read to determine how a particular market is going to appreciate, and I weigh that against my current asset. And then I also look for to buy properties with equity, which leaves me flexibility to liquidate if the market is bad, right? It leaves me a bit of a cushion. And then I also look for that equity to serve me in purchasing new assets, right? So I would be able to take a HELOC, which is the home equity line of credit, out on my asset and then use that capital to purchase another asset, right? To grow my portfolio, to increase my cash flow. So unpin, so we've purchased strategically in the city, in the way of the city's path of progress, so that we create areas of opportunity for appreciation, right? We purchase, dilapidated properties that require renovation so that we can force appreciation, force equity into our property. And then we look for properties where because we purchase everything in cash currently, everything is cash flow. We're recouping on our investment, but we're cash flow positive. We don't owe a mortgage on any of our properties.
Wow.
So the investment opportunity that we have is a mid to long-term investment opportunity for passive investors. So it's typically a 5 to 10 year hold period. And right now our target development cost is about $30 a square foot, right? So that development cost is the acquisition of the property, the soft cost, and construction, right? So we're in generally about $30 a square foot with, I believe the national average for, buy and hold investors are closer to 75 for renovation. And then I believe in new construction, it's between $100 and $125 a square. So and then you'll see there with our target, our development target at $30 a square foot, we're able to beat kind of national averages because we do everything in-house, right? So we don't have the premiums associated with construction. They'll charge you 30% on whatever your actual cost is. And then they'll mark up material costs, and they'll mark up, a ton of different costs in construction. And we're able to mitigate that because we own the construction company. And our current target capital raise is about $7 million, right? And I won't get into the management fees and the performance participation, but we do offer an 8% preferred return. So no matter the portfolio's performance, because everyone's an equity member, all investors are entitled to an 8% preferred return on their money. So that's an 8% guarantee on your money.
Wow.
So as a developer, as an active investor, there are a few things that you want to identify in a market, right? So you want to identify population growth, right? And that's an indicator that there are people in the market to occupy your units and new units, right? There's job growth, right? And these are generally the two things that developers look for. This is a litmus test, right? Job growth, right? So the people that are moving into this market have employment to afford your unit, right? So we're a more conscious urban developer. So our litmus test is a bit more nuanced in this. So we look for economic diversity, right? So the sustainability of job growth, across all sectors, right? So, historically this town was a steel mill, and they added 15,000 jobs in 2 years, right? 20,000 jobs in 2 years, which is an amazing job growth, right? But if the steel mill picks up and moves to another area, right, then that's a major catastrophe when it comes to job growth. So we look for economic diversity. So we look for job growth across all sectors, right? And then we look for areas of opportunity, right? So if the population growth isn't where it is, we look for areas of opportunity as to how we can trigger population growth, right? So in this particular market, we noticed that the population growth wasn't on par with the job growth. So we took a deep dive in the market and understood that 60% of the people that occupy the new jobs in the market commute outside the city to live and pay more to live outside the city because the current quality of the inventory in the unit is subpar, right? So that's an opportunity for a developer to come in and put 60 new units in a marketplace and attract people that already commute to the city 10 hours a day, 5 days a week to live and have the extra layer of convenience, right? So the two things that you'll see here to the left, we'll talk more about affordability, and that's something that Matt touched on before, right? So he put that 36% metric out there. So typically an affordable unit is about a third of your aggregated income, your household income, right? So that's how you know you can afford a unit. So if I make $3,000 a month, I shouldn't be spending more than $1,000 a month on housing, right? So and this is a testament to our strategy and how nuanced we are in terms of looking into the market. We noticed that in the city of Jonestown, the aggregated household income is about $314 million. So the affordable unit in that area should total out to about $94 million, right? What people are actually spending is about $60 million on housing in this area, right? That leaves a market share or an opportunity of about $34 million to increase home values, to increase, rental units, right? Which is, to a developer, that's pretty appetizing, right? That's like, hey, there's an untapped potential here at about $34 million. But the nuance, the caveat to that is that, remember, we talked about 60% of the population commuting outside of the city to live. And they typically live in that greater Jonestown area. And the opportunity is closer to 220 million. So we noticed that in bigger markets are like the DMV area, right? So that's Maryland, Virginia, DC, right? That's the tri-state area. That's Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. In bigger markets like that, you see high commuting populations in New York. You see it in Manhattan, right? Because in the market indicator is that New York is just too expensive and too densely populated to house the amount of people that work there, right? So, I can make $100,000 a year. I'm not going to spend $5,000 a month on a 400 square foot bedroom apartment, right? You move to New Jersey, you move to Connecticut, right? And you have, for that same price point, you have a 5,000 square foot home, with a quarter acre of land, right? In this particular market, we noticed that people on average commute 30 minutes outside of the city, and then they pay, an average 2 to 2.5 times more than what a unit in the city costs, right? So it's a preferential kind of disparity versus kind of a meeting the housing need. The second thing that you'll see is the market size on the right hand. So we typically are putting market rate units in this particular city, and the demographic or the target tenant typically makes at least $50,000 a month or more, right? So what this chart on the right hand side shows is what that population looks like currently in the city. So that's about 15% of the population. What it looks like outside the city of Johnstown, which is about 34%, and then what that looks like in the total area, which is about 28. So in the city, we see early adopters, right? People who are saying, screw what the quality of the unit looks like. I want to be close to where I work, right? You know, and then the second thing we're seeing is 34% of that population outside the city saying, hey, you know, for whatever reason, you know, I'm living here and I can afford to pay more, but they're not currently paying more. And we believe that the catalyst for that is that the quality of the inventory is subpar, right? So just to add a little bit more color to that, you know, when we're purchasing units, we're seeing carpet in the kitchen and bathroom. We're seeing drop ceilings, right? We're seeing, you know, wood paneling all over the walls. And the reason for that is most of these homes have been built prior to so I believe it's 48% of the homes have been built prior to 1940. And then another 40% of the homes were built prior to 1970, right? So the current home is a lot older than what we're used to, and less than 1.3% have been built after 2000, the year 2000. So the new construction homes are, you know, less than 1.3%, and that's adding to the quality of inventory in a particular city, which is driving, you know, a lot of that job growth to go outside the city to live, right? And what you'll see here, you'll see three things on this map, right? So the first thing you'll see blue squares highlighted all over the city, right? You see those are where our proof of concept came from. So that's 28 current market rate housing units downtown, right? The second thing you'll see is you'll see how the city is tiered the core urban fabric of the center city, Johnstown, and they've separated into three tiers, right? Tier 1 is around the Central Park, right? So that's real estate, you know, centrally located downtown. That's City Hall is there. That's, you know, all of your restaurants, all of your bars are down there. Tier 2A is east of that, right? And as you're moving from Tier 1 to Tier 2A, you have the convention center, you have the baseball stadium, right? And then Tier 2B is just west of that, and that's where you're moving into kind of that greater Johnstown area, right? More of those residential neighborhoods. The third thing you'll see is you'll see all of the businesses that have opened in the last 3 years, right? So we have one. Yeah.
We getting close on time.
Yeah. Okay.
We get close on time. We want to be able to leave room for questions as well.
For sure. So I'll wrap it up, right? So we have businesses that have opened up in the last 3 years downtown. And then the last thing you'll see is if you look at our logo, you'll see where we're strategically located in this development strategy that the city has mapped out, right? And this is who we are. I'm the CEO and head of development. My partner who's on the call, Satiir Stevenson, is the chief investment officer, head of acquisitions. And then Dwight Bostic is the chief operating officer and head of asset management and property management. And then this is a quick snapshot of our current portfolio. So in the first column, you'll see where the property is qualified, and then Satiir can take you through the rest of the chart.
Yeah, so what we did, I'm the acquisitions manager, and what we did was just make sure we strategically place ourselves along the city's redevelopment plan. We were able to get access to that. So we placed ourselves in maybe in some of the corridors that they started to redevelop. And then we also placed ourselves in near downtown businesses, as he mentioned earlier. They added 2 dispensaries, they added cafes, they added breweries. We wanted to make sure we were centrally located in those areas. And then downtown, the average rent is around $850. And then also, so one of our best projects, and we'll wrap it up, is the 215 Franklin Street, which is the second busiest corridor in Johnstown, which is right near Central Square, right across the Ameriservice headquarters, Crown America, right next to Northwest Financial. we were able to buy that for less than 10 grand. It was a five unit mixed use commercial downstairs, and then 4 units on the top 2 floors. We were able to get a 21% ROI. So the NOI is considered annually. The gross scheduled income is considered monthly. The 21% ROI, that means you'll get your money back in 5 years or break even in 5 years and start to positively own the property for your clear, positively cash flow, essentially. Then after 5 years, like it's a short, mid to long term investment. We own these properties free and clear, so we'll be able to reevaluate whether we want to re-leverage these properties or sell them to buy more or put equity to buy more. Us owning these properties free and clear allows us to have the flexibility. The properties that you see that are lower, like 224 Main Street, it took us more for construction. But the fact that we're using our own capital, it lowers the ROI, but we are able to enhance as far as like the net operating income over time, which increases the value of the building, and we'll be able to pull from it.
So it leaves, in short, it leaves flexibility for passive investors to exit, right? So because we own everything free and clear, we can then reposition the property and pull equity out. So say if we're in a project for $200,000 and because we bought it and added value, we've created, $100,000 cushion, $150,000 cushion in that project. We can then reposition at, re-leverage at 50%, 70%, and attach a mortgage, and the cash flow cover the mortgage and positively cash flow, and then pull capital out to either pay investors back or to purchase more properties. So it's kind of, government sort of positive. But yeah, so we're Jonestown Capital. We're currently offering opportunities for accredited, non-accredited, and then investors with recognized capital gains to participate in. And our target goal is about $7 million. And, we're more than just a developer who identifies single projects. We're helping cities kind of bounce back and, relive their glory days, right?
That's excellent. Excellent, Laquan. Excellent. We have a question from Matt again. How can investors get involved, and what's the minimum investment?
Sure. So, so our email address is right here on the slide. I'd say, feel free if not just if you want to invest in the fund, but if you have any questions, want to learn more, or want to just pick our brains a little bit in terms of, how we got to the point that we got to, feel free to contact us via email, and then we'll be able to kind of open that dialogue up, and that's how you'll be able to kind of start that conversation. And then the minimum capital investment that we're taking now is about $10,000.
Okay, thanks so much. That was really, really, really helpful. Wow. Okay, so we're at that 11 o'clock point. We'll see. I think we have like a 10-minute grace on Zoom. Anyone wants to share their questions before we do our vote of thanks? Any questions from our guests?
I just want to say this was great, Laquan, Satiir, Dwight.
Yes.
Part of my job as a financial planner is to vet opportunities for my clients and provide something different, because it's not just about stock markets or bond markets or CDs, right? This can bring a very good steady cash flow to your situation. 8% yield, consistent. And let me tell you, the stuff that these guys are doing is special. There's a teaching hospital there, and there are residents that have to come in. The rental market, the demand is there. They're doing some things on the affordable housing, which is always a good thing for the community. Reach out to them via email. I mean, if we have 10 minutes, we should just stay on and answer questions. And
yes.
I have an idea or a question I guess you all could expound upon, because just please try to elaborate on how it is that your personal financial health allows you to take advantage of these types of opportunities, and how the things that the two of you do, or the three, four of you, combine together so that you're able to do these type of investments, and how does that mix together?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that we've identified early on that wealth is a team sport, right? So it's not something that you can do by yourself. And I think us knowing each other for as long as we have, we've built that trust and credibility. We know each other's character. So we all organically came to the realization that, you know, real estate was something we wanted to do individually. And then we got together and said, hey, you know, I was doing flips in Baltimore. I was purchasing property in Philly on my own. And I was like, hey, I can, you know, have a unit here or 2 units here myself. But, you know, if we come together, you know, and listen, our initial expectation isn't what we've set. 60 units. I think Satiir had it in his financial plan that he wanted 60 units by 40. He's 27 right now, right? So, you know, the things that we were able to accomplish just putting our 24 hours together, right? We've been able to 10x all of our wildest dreams. And then from a financial standpoint, we realized that we needed to create an opportunity for ourselves to free up our time, right? So I was initially full-time in real estate, right? But I recently welcomed my baby girl into the world. She's now 2 months old. Dwight had his kid literally this week, right?
Wow.
And
Yes.
you know, we first had realized that we needed to free up our time. So we all actually took a job to work at the same place, and we literally get up every day at 4 a.m. and we're finished by 10 to 11 a.m. And then we have the full day to work on our business, right? So, you know, we just realized and communicated with each other where we are financially, where we are from a time perspective. And we were able to put a plan together collectively to be able to build what we're building now. So,
It's beautiful, beautiful.
Wealth is a team sport for sure.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Manolo, you're responsible for getting us started in this whole, you know, virtual process. Any thoughts? That's
a great thing, and I'm so happy in the initiative that you and Sean have taken and the people that we've been able to bring together. I'm looking forward to continuing this journey.
Me too.
Same here.
This is like this is college level edification.
Yes.
I love it. It's nice.
No, yeah, it's and I'm, you know, and we're fortunate, you know, to be able to share, right? Like, you know, that like we said before, there's essentially 3 commodities that you have when it comes to investing in anything, right? You either have money, right, which is a commodity. You either have time or you have the knowledge and experience. And, you know, where people have given us the opportunity to get experience, people have given us money and invested with us, and it's our duty to pay it forward. So all of you on the call, you know, use that email address, right? Even if you're not in a position where you're ready to take down an opportunity, use this idle time to get the information, and you know, we're here to share it, you know. And
Thank you.
I love what you guys are doing. It's awesome. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
I want to say thank you to everyone that presented, because one thing leads to the next, right? The personal financial health into the ability to leverage that to get into a team investment type of strategy from start to finish. I'm waiting for the next one.
Yes.
I'm glad people are here to share it and listen to, but I love it. It's the start of something very, very nice. It's healthy. I love it.
Yes.
So happy to be a part of it. So honored to be a part of it. And I think in 2 weeks we have another presentation from Salim. He's going to go through some tax planning, and you know, Satiir, Dwight, if either of you, or even if one of you can jump on it, because he can be a very good center of influence. He's a great accountant here in New Jersey that we partner with. And yeah,
Who
we're
wrote
gonna
this book?
Yep.
Mhm.
So, seems the real deal.
Yeah. Okay, and so we just want to say thank yous, you know, to Manolo who snowballed this virtual presentation idea, to Matthew who's very passionate, informative presentations. He introduced us to the Jonestown Capital team, and Laquan, Satiir, and Dwight. We just, you know, really powerful. Really powerful. I think particularly at a time where we're talking about our community and building our communities up. You guys have been doing that, you know, so it's just been such a blessing having all of you, having our guests from Trinidad, St. Lucia, New Jersey, Guyana, you know, it's just so amazing, right? It's a nice melting pot. Dominique, my cousin, popped online too. I'll follow up with her about, you know, what types of situations she'll be interested in. My dad from St. Lucia. My dad, you guys, Manolo and Matthew, my dad was a 9-time $1 million roundtable qualifier for life insurance.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
We're in the presence of greatness.
Yes. Yeah, and he was 3 times Knight of the Round Table too. So we're just so glad to have him.
Mhm.
Thank you,
All
Anthony.
right, so it's a wrap, guys. We hope to see you on the 27th for the small business startup presentation. We'll keep you posted. We'll also send you today's video by the end of today. It's a lot of hard work, guys, you know, but we love it and pulling it off. So thanks, Dean. It was nice seeing you.
Thanks to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Sonia, you're
Thank
right.
you.
Auntie Mo's here as well. So, you know, thank you so much. She's interested in the investment piece as well.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Most welcome. It's been a pleasure. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Bye, guys.
Okay.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, Tanya, it's Sean. I mean, you guys, this is a lot of work putting it together, so we appreciate it. You know, you guys
We
are
love
doing awesome stuff. So, how's
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. We love it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Enjoy.
Be in touch. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. Hi, Dwight. Hi, Doms. I think Daddy came up too. Auntie Mo, you still there? I think Auntie Mo's there. Okay. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, Dwight. Nice seeing you.